It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. Sure, that's true. I thought we would continue looking at Pathfinder today. We have got the Pathfinder. This is the GM's guide from the basic set box that we have been taking a look at. We went through and did an unboxing, and then we've done several different morning grind episodes, but going through and learning how to play Pathfinder. I think we were actually getting close to the end on how to do game mastering stuff. There's a lot of different monsters here in this, and there's also like treasure and things like that. So we'll take a look at those, but we're not going to go through them one by one. So I think we're getting close to the end of going through the information that was in the beginner's box. The core rule book, I think, is both the player's handbook and the GM's guide. But in the starter box, the beginner box, let me turn on this light. In the starter box and the beginner box, you had two separate, a player's guide and a GM's guide. So that's what we were going to be looking at here today. Everybody, my coffee pot is dirty, so I wasn't even able to cook breakfast this morning. Didn't have time to cook breakfast this morning. Let me when we stopped the Crafter's Corner last night, I literally turned all of everything off, like just turned off all the Crafter's Corner, and then walked straight from here and went to sleep. And then I woke up about 20 minutes ago, so I knew I was exhausted and needed sleep. So I didn't get up like I was planning at 5 o'clock. So we're gonna have to start that again tomorrow. But man, as soon as the morning grind is over here, I'm thinking about maybe even just turning off the internet and trying to get a whole lot of work done because I am behind on work. Hey, Theo. Hey, Theo. So Mike asked, did I get your email? Probably not. Because I slept just immediately after the Crafter's Corner last night and just woke up. So I've got a bunch of email and direct messages and stuff like that to go through. So I will get working on that. Yeah, did I swap AM, PM? Sorry. So I was trying to get ready this morning. Hi, Kat Monroe. Good to see you. Hi, Stray and BGD. Everybody's here. Good morning. A cup of tea would be fantastic. I just had to get some water. Oh, shopping at Wally World. That's Robert says. I had never thought about somebody doing that, but I guess you completely could. You could be on the go and be listening to the morning grind. I still do want to try to write some scripts. We were talking about scripts to write last night regarding the OGL situation because I don't want people to lose faith or lose the faith. So I think that what the strategy should do is we should write some scripts about things that Wizards of the Coast is doing, shoot those videos, and then we can even advertise them. Because I was wondering how many views would it take to get on a video in order to get like the Hasbro executive team or executives at Wizards of the Coast worried? Because obviously we're not big enough quite yet, right? Because they haven't been influencing decisions. But I had been brainstorming yesterday some headlines. I'll put these in here, in the chat, about what's going on that people who are in the stock market or involved in the investment in the Dungeons and Dragons movie would not be happy about and would not like to see. So I was thinking about Hasbro takes huge business risk ahead of Dungeons and Dragons movie. Hasbro involved in major licensing dispute ahead of Dungeons and Dragons movie. Hasbro attacks Internet's foundation ahead of Dungeons and Dragons movie. And explain why that's the case. And then I might even be willing to put a few advertising dollars behind that, behind some of those, to see if we can get, how many tens of thousands, or would it take 100,000 or 250,000 views in order to start that circulating while they're doing their 2-week review time or something like that? I can't devote a tremendous amount to it, but hey, maybe other people might be interested in doing it as well. Something like, so we make these things up and they got to be like 90-second clips because they can't be too long. We don't want people to watch. We want to get right to the meat of that situation, try advertising it, and then see if people actually take note over there at Hasbro's. PJF says, it's like we're in strike mode. Has there been communication with Magic the Gathering community to see if they are willing to join us in the boycotting of WotC or other gaming communities? I don't know exactly how to communicate to that group. I'm a very casual Magic player, so I'm not in that community. But other people have got to be. Other people have already talked about boycotting Magic, and they're canceling there's some kind of online Magic thing too, right? I don't know anything about it, but if people also started canceling Magic, because we also know that the Magic players are also upset at WotC for reprinting cards and doing some other stuff as well. So we know that's also gone on. So yeah, if I make up those videos, because I've got a ton of other things I've got to do. I've got a ton of other things I got to do and catch up on. But if I make those videos and put them out, then if we just advertise them, that wouldn't take that wouldn't take a whole lot more amount of time. So once the scripts need to get written, and then I would need to shoot them. But then once they got uploaded, it doesn't take any additional time to have them advertising and being promoted. So that's what I'm thinking. More on that soon. All right, let's go to the morning messages. The Morning Grind is brought to you by World Anvil. For all the writers out there, World Anvil has all the tools to help you write, organize, present, and publish rich settings with complex characters. Write, world build, and manage your story all in a single platform. Use the code MORNINGGRIND to get 40% off yearly subscriptions. The Morning Grind is also brought to you by the world of Italtus. Italtus is a new game setting designed for 5e rules. It rekindles the fire of classic heroic fantasy game worlds, but reimagined and refreshed. Check it out on Italtus.com and get it for your table. The Morning Grind is also brought to you by the Thrones and Bones Viking-inspired fantasy RPG setting. It includes 37 new creatures and monsters, including the Vol Revan, a part raven, part wolf creature created when a raven feasts on an improperly buried battle-slain Jarl. Get the books on DriveThruRPG today. And thank you for being here with me live on The Morning Grind. And if you're watching on replay, welcome to you as well. It's great to have you here. If you're enjoying The Morning Grind, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It will really help the channel grow, and I would be very thankful. We also have the Ravenkeep Discord server you can join if you would like to be a part of the community. All right, that's what you need to know. Let's get to the main topic. All right, so let's delve into learning here. So, like I said, we're in the Pathfinder beginner. Oh, I didn't bring up the auxiliary camera here. So we are. There we go. Inside the Pathfinder first beginner guide RPG GM guide. And we've been going over, we just went through encounter building. And I really liked the information they had in here because it seems like they've gone to a lot of trouble to structure and make sure that you can balance the encounters very well, according to group size and how many XP each one of these needs to have, each type of encounter needs to have, and how to build that out with monsters. So I think that went very well. Hey, Zero Blade. BGD says, there's 17 people watching here. If everyone shared this with 17 friends who did the same, the third degree of separation later, this video would have over 83,000 views. Yes, I'm sure that would happen because of the exponential, yes. Zero the Blade seemed to have made it here in time. We got more people coming in. Excellent. Emir is here. But now, so we had just gone through that, and we had just started on rewards. Or actually, we had not started yet, but we had just gotten to rewards. So I was interested to know how they were expected you to hand out treasure and also magic items, because we did come across a statement earlier on about if you're going to be making characters that are of higher level than just first, that they also need to be compensated with some magic items as well. So we know that that's kind of built in someplace because of that statement. So let's find out. So rewards. The most basic reward for any challenge is the XP experience points on the characters earn. You give out the XP once the encounter ends. More information on XP can be found on page 34. Remember that XP goes to all members of the group, and you can give XP out for achieving goals in the story in addition to XP from encounters. And we had, when we were trying to figure out how many encounters might level up, we'd kind of forgotten about that, or I had, when we were just looking at, deaths of monsters and such, because there were story rewards as well. You're supposed to be giving out some minor, moderate, and then advanced XP rewards as well, in addition to killing monsters. So you actually don't need as many encounters as we were thinking in order to level up. Quite as many. You'll get some because of story rewards. Treasure. The other main type of reward in an adventure is treasure. You can place treasure in your adventure as you want. The more treasure the heroes find, the more powerful they become. The table below shows what you can consider a normal amount of treasure for an encounter. This is exactly what I wanted to know. But you can also add treasure hoards elsewhere, or even put them in higher level treasures as a separate reward for the most important encounters for your adventure. The extra treasure column shows how much treasure earned outside of combat you should put in an adventure. The extra table, let's see. So this is treasure by levels and price. Oh, no, extra treasure column over here. Extra treasure column shows you how much treasure earned outside of combat you should put in an adventure for each level of play. This treasure might come from treasure hoards, rewards from NPCs who offer the heroes help, or other sources. If your group has more than 4 characters, add this extra treasure amount again for each hero beyond the 4th. Okay, so at party level, a low, moderate, or severe encounter, and that's how they were categorizing their encounters as far as deadliness: low threat encounters, moderate threat encounters, and severe threat encounters. Party level 1, 2, 3. So a low level encounter, low threat encounter for a first level party is supposed to provide 13 gold worth of treasure. Moderate 18, severe 26, with another 35 gold someplace outside of combat in an adventure at that level of play. Second level, low should be providing 23, moderate 30, 45 gold with 60 gold elsewhere. Party level 3, 38 gold, 50 gold, 75 gold, 100 gold pieces elsewhere. And then this starter set only goes up to 3rd level. So in order to go to start adventuring at 4th level, you got to go to something higher than that. Go to the main core book. So instead of giving all these heroes all the gold GP as coins, it's best to turn most of the amount into magic items using the treasure by level and price table. Since treasure is more flexible than XP, you can tweak these amounts. You can even assign all of one character's treasure to another encounter. For example, did I just lose this light? Oh. Maybe I did. Hang on and get it going again. Well, how about this light? So you can even assign all of one encounter's treasure to another encounter. For instance, if the party fights a viper, it probably wouldn't have treasure. So you could add the amount of money to that fight as an encounter with a doppelganger or drow. Permanent magic items don't lose their power when you use them, but consumable magic items can only be used once. So, treasures by level and price. Permanent magical items include such things as an ever-burning torch. So also, okay, I think this is neat too, because we saw that creatures had levels when we were designing them. So a gremlin right here is a level 0 creature. A goblin warrior is a level -1 creature. Orc scrapper is level 0. So they've got, and okay, like here's an ogre warrior at level 3. So we know that those had levels, but then also then that helps you design these encounters. But also we were noticing that the magic items also have levels. So a 2nd level wand is actually an item level 5. So goggles of night are items level 5. Healer's gloves are items level 4. So we also have item level. So here we have that in this table as well. So we've got different items, we've got their level and their price, and then also where they are described as. So I guess if you've got, let's just take a look. We got permanent magic items, consumable magic items over here. Holy water, level 1, it costs 3 gold coins. Or a healing potion, it says, is 4 gold coins. And it's level 1. So instead of some of this treasure actually being just in gold coins, I suppose we could say that somebody had some type of invisibility potion or climbing bolt or something that we discovered. Oh, hey, RM. Welcome. Good to see you. She runs the Positive Fandom channel. So good to see you. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Yeah, where is the Electrum? We haven't seen. We get lots of stuff based on gold here. But what about silvers? What about the Electrum? We'll have to see. Okay, Daniel says Pathfinder 2 2nd Edition is a silver-based economy, so everything got tuned down on price. So Viper swallowed a gold ring, right? That's how you found it. Really, you got to dig it out of him. That's why you move that treasure to something else. So Chase says, yeah, as an example, a sword with a +1 potency rune is only worth 35 gold coins in Pathfinder, which is good. There's a lot of inflation in other games. Sometimes GURPS talked a lot about, okay, what would actually be the value of gold be? So that's why we have such smaller amounts of gold here. So I guess we are a silver-based economy, but since we're adventuring, we get into the gold. But not so far in the hundreds of gold coins. Zeroth Blade. So Pathfinder 2nd E is more detailed in almost everything, even in the beginner box. Good thing I'm picking mine up tomorrow. Well, it seems that way. We had already come to the conclusion that as far as a product goes, the Pathfinder core book, the Pathfinder beginner box just blew away what we were seeing in other boxes, like the D&D boxes. Emir says the potency and striking ruins are needed for marshals at the highest levels. So, Hunter's Bow, Retribution Axe, Smoking Sword. So that's how you design that and put magic items in there. So you're not getting so it's not supposed to be treasure or magic items. No, excuse me. It is treasure or magic items. It's not both. We're not adding in both. We're just looking at the value of the gold. So I guess that could be coins, that could be works of art, that could be other kinds of treasure, including magic items here. Building a campaign. Just because the adventure ends, it doesn't mean the whole game has to. You can continue with the same group of heroes in an ongoing campaign. A campaign is a connected series of adventures. You can build new adventures based on what happened in the last one, or you can adapt pre-written adventures to carry on the story. Campaigns work better if you carry forward some NPCs, themes, and villains from previous adventures to adventure. From adventure to adventure. For example, after the Menace of Atari, you can use the Atari section to get some new ideas for what you might include in your next adventure. You can also get more adventures for your campaign with the Pathfinder Adventure Tape book, Troubles in Atari. You can find out more about Troubles in Atari in the flyer in the beginner box. You can get more used to being a GM, or you can start planning out campaigns from the start with different themes and styles. But for your first game, it's usually best to start with one adventure and expand there to get the hang of GMing. All right, the next big topic is environments. Daniel says the item levels are in there as a recommendation. For example, you can give the first level group a 10th level item, but it can unbalance the game, so be careful. But on the other hand, so you can do it. Those are recommendations. You can do it, but you have to be careful about what you're doing. But, sometimes famous stories are written about low-level characters who have gotten a hold of a very powerful magic item. Maybe Frodo Baggins or Bilbo, who all of a sudden got the one ring, right? And you got to figure out what to do with it. So the next thing is environments. It says that most encounters take place in dungeons, underground strongholds, warrens, or crypts that have become the dens of dangerous creatures. A dungeon could be constructed or naturally occurring, but either way, it combines the features of underground and urban environments found on page 46. Regardless, your adventure can be set anywhere. So we've got some examples of different environments: aquatic, Arctic, desert, forest, mountain, plains, and swamp. So Arctic environments are among the most challenging for heroes, short of other worlds or unusual dimensions. Yeah, we played the Shahagin adventure years ago for AD&D. Like, what was Tide of Blood, something like that was one of them. I can't remember the name of all of them. Night of the Shark, I think, was one of them. But we also had ships in the sea. I remember when of Ships in the Sea was published for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And yeah, water encounters can absolutely be deadly. Like, you don't want to get in AD&D, you didn't want to get near water until like at least 5th level or something like that. But, water is dangerous to humans, so it makes sense. Like, trying to conduct an adventure underwater, not easy. So aquatic environments are among the most challenging for heroes, short of other worlds and unusual dimensions. So swimming, athletics check to swim, DC 10 for still water, 15 for flowing water, and 20 for swiftly flowing water. Currents, ocean currents, flowing rivers, and similar moving water are difficult terrain for a creature swimming against the current. See the difficult terrain sidebar on page 45. So I haven't seen something like that written out before, so that's interesting. Ocean currents, flowing rivers, and similar moving water are difficult terrain when you're trying to move through, when you're trying to swim. If a creature in a current at the end of their turn, it moves a certain distance depending on the speed of the current, usually 5 feet or 10 feet. For instance, a 10-foot current moves a creature 10 feet in the current direction at the end of that creature's turn. Arctic terrain, like what are we having to deal with in all of these? So I didn't see anything about drowning here. I wonder where we get the rules about holding your breath. In fact, I wonder, let's look at that up. So that's always something like what goes on with holding your breath and drowning. Let's go over here to the core rule book and try to find that out. Let's look up drowning. Drowning and suffocation, page 478. Here we go. Oh. 478. Okay, so aquatic combat. Okay, so here's aquatic combat, drowning and suffocating. Let's check that out. Hopefully the rules are more robust than the 5th edition rules. Use these rules for battles in water or underwater. You're flat-footed unless you have swim speed. Okay? You gain resistance 5 to acid and fire. You take a -2 circumstance penalty to melee, slashing, or bludgeoning attacks that pass through the water. Ranged attacks that deal bludgeoning or slashing damage automatically miss if the attacker or target is underwater. And piercing ranged attacks made by an underwater creature or against an underwater target have their range increments halved. So let's say that again. Ranged attacks that deal bludgeoning or slashing damage automatically miss. Piercing ranged attacks made against underwater creatures or against an underwater target have their range increments halved. So I guess if you're throwing something that's slashing, that's not going to work. But you could still potentially use a bow. Now you got to deal with your bowstring getting wet. But you're having your range increments. You can't cast fire spells or use actions with the fire trait underwater. And at the GM's discretion, some ground-based actions might not work underwater or while floating. So yeah, that's bad. Now you do gain resistance 5 to acid and fire while you're underwater. So there is some benefit. But an underwater adventure where you've actually got to fight underwater, it's going to be hard. Bottled air is a magic item. Is that like your scuba tanks? Are there I guess there are magic items in here. Let's see if I can find that here in a minute. Or if you've got a page number vision, we'll take it up. Cat Monroe says, I have given 2 of the beginner box sets. I really like Pathfinder 2e much better than Dungeons and Dragons. That's the conclusion I'm coming to. Now, the reason that I started playing 5th edition is because that's when I was getting back into gaming, and a lot of people were coming back to 5th edition. There were a lot of people running 5th edition games. I didn't know anybody who played 2nd edition. I probably would have if 2nd edition Pathfinder. I probably would have if that's what other people were playing were here. Chase Street, rule of thumb for Pathfinder 2nd E. If you don't have a swim speed, do your very best not to get into combat in the water, as most any opponent you'll find there will have swim speed. Yeah, and it says you're flat-footed unless you have swim speed. Yeah, so it sounds like this is a return to that idea back in AD&D that the water is dangerous. If you're not an aquatic creature, you might want to stay away without magic items and all of that, because it's not going to go well for you. I like that. Water is dangerous. Water is dangerous. Oh, thank you, Vision. Page 572. I'll go there right after drowning and suffocation. Let me go to drowning and suffocation. So, you can hold your breath for a number of rounds equal to 5 plus your Constitution modifier. Reduce your remaining air by 1 round at the end of each of your turns, or by 2 if you attacked or cast any spell that turn. You also lose 1 round worth of air each time you are critically hit or critically fail or save against a damaging effect. I like this. We did some underwater stuff or swimming stuff in a 5th edition game. We had an encounter like that. And I thought the rules were way too generous. I thought the rules were way too generous for what was going on. If you speak, including casting spells with a verbal component or activating items with command components, you lose all remaining air. When you run out of air, you fall unconscious and start suffocating. You can't recover from being unconscious and must attempt a DC 20 Fortitude save at the end of each of your turns. On a failure, you take 1d10 damage, and on a critical failure, you die. On each check after the first, your DC increases by 5 and the damage by 1d10. Those increases are cumulative. Once your access to air is restored, you stop suffocating and are no longer unconscious, unless you're at 0 hit points. Yeah, so that's brutal. I like those rules. So, but there's probably things that we can do to mitigate that if you have access to the right spells or magic items, such as Vision was pointing out, 572. A bottle of air, which is item level 7. So, okay, so this is a high level item. So as far as low-level characters dealing with water, I mean, they could get it, like we were just saying, but this is a high-level item. It has a price of 320 gold pieces. It has air, conjuration, and magical. Usage, held in one hand. It appears to be an ordinary corked glass bottle. This item contains a limitless supply of fresh air. You must uncork this bottle with an interact action before you can activate it. Activate. One action interact. Effect. You draw a breath of air from the bottle. This allows you to breathe even in an airless or toxic environment. Air doesn't escape the mouth of the bottle, so leaving the bottle open in an airless environment doesn't change the environment. So that's one way that you could swim down. I kind of want to play that one too. We were talking about last night doing shows about RPGs. But how we might like to do that. And of course, I want to play some RPGs in my world, but I'm not quite ready. But if we got started beforehand, it would be fun to have people who were running other campaigns and have already published other campaigns to play under. But we could also, like Mark running the Thorn Wall in the world of Ataltis. But also, I'd like to go back and play some classic adventures, at least what I consider classic adventures, online, streaming them online. Something like those old Shahagwin adventures and others that I really liked. I also really liked Destiny of Kings. I'd really like to play Destiny of Kings again. Okay, Jonathan Reese has another thing we should look at. The Underwater Marauder feat really helps underwater. Let's check that out. The Underwater Marauder feat, 268. Underwater Marauder feat. Oh, look, the feats have levels too. So we really hadn't gotten into that yet because we hadn't looked into how to create characters. So the feats also have levels. So Underwater Marauder, prerequisites, trained in athletics. You've learned to fight underwater. You are not flat-footed while in water, and you don't take the usual penalties for using a bludgeoning or slashing melee weapon in water. Oh, well, that is a good feat. So if you're planning on, fighting Shahagwin or other creatures under the sea, or like this thing right here, probably having that is a good idea. And so feats are also something that you could retrain, right? We looked at rules for retraining. So that means if you're thinking about going underwater, but you didn't have it, you could potentially train for that, which would make sense. Chase Street says, bottled air is basically just a limitless supply of fresh air, so very handy for underwater and poisonous clouds. Hey, Pan. Good morning. Great to have you here. It is cool artwork. I'm a fan of the artwork. So, other environments they call out include Arctic, desert, forest, mountain, plains, swamp, and their characteristics. Oh, underground. Oh, let's take a look at underground. You know, I've got this this book over here. Does anybody know this book? I thought this was a great book at the time, and I think it still is a really good book. The Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeoneer Survival Guide. Anybody have this one? Now, of course, one of its problems is that it doesn't have the unified, in retrospect today, is that it doesn't use any type of unified action resolution mechanic, because that's just the way that Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was. So everything that you're dealing with is kind of ad hoc. But this covered so many topics. We might have to go over this book specifically on the Morning Grind one day. But the Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, it covered. It's cold in here, so fingers aren't working right. But I mean, this covered things like the Underdark, rules for underground play, swimming, climbing, using ropes, bridges, falling, expanded rules, spelunking, excavations, combat rules for underground play, air supply, cave-ins, hypothermia, magic effects of lodestone, structural decay, underground waterways, standing water, mining, new equipment for it. I mean, this book covers a lot of stuff. So actually, the specific underground environment can be a good one. Chase Street says there is a ring of swimming magic item as well that grants the wearer all important swim speed. It's a level 12 magic item. That also sounds like it'd be a great one to have, because if you can't go anywhere underwater, you'd have to really prepare for an underwater adventure. In the Shahagwin adventures, you were actually going, at one point, you go down to a Shahagwin city, so you have to be ready. And if you're up on your ship, don't fall in the water. Jonathan Reese says, oh, that hits the Wayback Machine. Yep, I have that and the Wilderness one. I have the Wilderness one too. Maybe those we do need to get into one day on the Morning Grind, because I thought these were great books. They covered so many great topics. Now, see, one of the issues is they covered some topics got covered in multiple different books in multiple different ways and had different rules because there was no standardization. But that was okay. The depth in which they covered those topics, I thought was really great. So let's see what's going on underground, what they say to deal with underground. Underground. Most underground environments consist of caves and other natural formations. Artificial dungeons and ruins combine underground features with urban features like stairs and walls. Deep underground vaults have some of the terrain features as mountains, such as chasms and cliffs. So cliffs and slopes. Athletics to climb a cliff, DC 10 for sloped cliffs, 15 for steep cliffs, and 20 for sheer cliffs, or steep ones with a few handholds. Without safety precautions like a creature further up securing a rope, a critical failure can result in significant falling damage, bludgeoning damage equal to half the distance fallen. Floors. Natural cavern floors are rarely flat. They tend to have abrupt changes in elevation that are difficult terrain or require using acrobatics to balance, DC 10 or 12. Ledges. Moving across a narrow ledge requires using acrobatics to balance. Magma. Caverns deep underground might have magma flowing within. Just as the heat from being near magma is harmful, causing 1d6, just being near the heat is harmful, causing 1d6 fire damage each round to anyone within 10 feet. Going into the magma is certain death for anyone not immune to fire. It deals 20d6 fire damage every round. Don't fall into that. Yeah, exactly. Emir says you could spend a few sessions preparing for an underwater quest and other adventures questing to recover the items and everything necessary to go underwater. Chase says, I have all my hardback AD&D books in a tub in the other room. All of them still are in great shape, save some coloring of the illustrations. Save coloring on the illustrations by yours truly. Uh-oh. Yeah, most of mine are in reasonable shape, but a lot of these I had and then sold and then have been rebuying. Sold them a long time ago. Hello, Dermis. Good to see you. Dermis. Chase Street says, the falling damage caps at 1,500 feet. Fallen, which results in 750 points of bludgeoning damage. Now, I guess do you have to adjust that for gravity? Yeah, we read something about I think we might have seen falling damage in here before, and I liked the way that it did it. It was I'd have to remember all the rules. But you cap out when you reach terminal velocity, I guess, and 750 points of damage, which is a lot, which means that there's a lot of characters that probably don't have that level of hit points, right? Because we talked about, one of the hit points problems is, a barbarian jumping off of something that they shouldn't survive. Let's see. Also underground. So magma, very lethal. Don't jump in magma. Rubble, difficult terrain, especially deep or pervasive rubble requires an athletics to balance on when you're crossing as well. Walls, athletics to climb a natural cave wall. Since most caves are formed by water, cave walls are often damp, making DC 22 or 25. Probably spending a lot of time underground on a bug hunt, as they say. Oh, hazards. Okay, so I was wondering, what else do we actually talk about? But actually, we need to talk about hazards before we get into magic items and stuff. So hazards is important because this is like our traps. So how do we increase encounters with traps? Terminal velocity. Or 375 if you are an unbreakable goblin, Vision says. And Chase Street says, yeah, that damage pretty much kills everything short of a Cthulhu or similar type of monster. Granted, Cthulhu has wings. Yeah, if you can fly, then you don't have to worry about it. Generally. Okay, so let's see how we add in traps, because that's important. So hazards. Dungeons are rife with devious traps meant to protect the treasures within, ranging from devices that shoot darts to those that drop heavy blocks or expose hidden pit traps. Detecting a hazard. Every hazard has a trigger of some kind, like a tripwire or a pressure plate. When characters approach a hazard, they have a chance of finding the mechanism before triggering the hazard. During exploration, determine whether the party detects a hazard. When the heroes first enter the area, it appears. Only someone actively searching, using the search activity while exploring, or the seek action in an encounter has a chance to notice them. Anyone who succeeds becomes aware of the hazard, and you can describe what they notice. Triggering a hazard. If the group fails to detect a hazard, or the hazard's trigger depends on a standard part of traveling, such as stepping on a floor plate, the hazard's reaction occurs. Hazards that would be triggered only when someone directly manipulates the environment by opening a door, for example, use their reactions only if the hero explicitly takes that action. Disabling a hazard. The most versatile method for deactivating traps is the disable device action using the thievery skill. We taught my nephews what the word disarm meant because of Hero Quest the other day, the first time we played it through, because one of them is playing the dwarf. And he's still looking for a trap to disarm. He hasn't gotten to do it yet. No. He did once. He didn't get to disarm a trap in the last one because everybody stepped in all the traps before they could find it. So we're still looking for a new way to use that skill. So the DC is listed in the hazards stat block. As noted in skills, a creature must be trained in thievery to use the disable device action. Fully disarming some traps requires multiple successful disable a device actions. For example, disabling scythe blades requires a successful check on each of the 2 blades. A critical failure on any roll to disable a hazard triggers it. A character must first detect a hazard or have pointed out to them to try to deactivate it. They can attempt to deactivate a hazard whether or not it has already been triggered, though most hazards no longer pose damage once they have been triggered. Damaging a hazard. Damaging a trap works like damaging a shield. The trap reduces the damage it takes by its hardness. If a hazard's hit points are reduced to its broken threshold, BT. So we have a broken threshold. So if hit points are reduced to its broken threshold or lower, the hazard... There we go. That light's charged enough to work now. If a hazard's hit points are reduced to its broken threshold or lower, the hazard becomes broken and can no longer be activated. If it's reduced to 0 hit points, it's destroyed and cannot be repaired. Usually the trap is triggered when attacked, though it isn't triggered if it's destroyed in 1 hit because there's not enough left to harm anyone. If it's broken in 1 hit but not destroyed, you decide whether it triggers based on the type of trap. You being the game master. Hazards, I would suppose. Hazards AC, saving throws, hardness, hit points, and BT are listed in their stat blocks. I was looking for the BT. Oh, yeah, okay, that is listed over there. Okay. A hazard that doesn't list one of these statistics can't be affected by anything targeting that statistic. For example, a hazard that has no HP but which has HP but no BT, can't be broken but can still be destroyed. Hazards can be targeted only by things that specifically say they can target objects. Certain abilities like bleed, damage, poison, mental effects, and the sickened condition don't work against a hazard, nor do any other effects that would reasonably work on the object. So hazard experience. How do we start incorporating these things? Because each one of these hazards also has a level. So everything's got a level, which is fantastic. Cthulhu's wings are just for show, though. They don't work, VGD says. Zero the Blade says, I remember my group's paladin triggered all the traps before I could disarm them. Yeah, there's the fighter or the paladin way of just going through these things. Okay, so hazard experience. Characters gain XP for overcoming a hazard, whether they disable it, avoid it, or simply endure its attacks. If they trigger the same hazard later on, they don't gain XP for the hazard again. The XP a hazard gives depends on the party's level, as shown below. For example, a 0 level hazard faced by a first level party is worth 6 XP because level 0 is the party's level -1. So these aren't worth a tremendous amount of XP, although up here at party level +3, that's 24 XP. So party level, so a trap or a hazard of your same level gives the group 8 XP. So let's see a 0 level hazard, which is a hidden pit. Pretty classic, right? Okay, notice DC 18 perception check, or DC 0 if the trapdoor is disabled or broken. Description: a wooden trapdoor covers a 10-foot square pit that's 20 feet deep. Disable: DC 12 thievery to remove the trapdoor. It's got an AC of 10, fortitude +1, reflex +1, trapdoor hardness of 3, trapdoor HP of 12 with a broken value of 6. It's immune to critical hits and sneak attacks. So its reaction is if a creature walks onto the trapdoor, that creature falls in unless it succeeds at a DC 16 reflex save to grab hold of the edge. This pit is 20 foot deep, dealing 10 bludgeoning damage to anyone who falls to the bottom. 10 bludgeoning damage for a pit trap. Unless you got like spikes in there. You could probably increase the damage or something. But that would be the hazard level 0. That's a very Hero Quest kind of thing. Envenomed Lock. We encountered these in Hero Quest as well. Notice is a DC 17 perception check. Description: a spring-loaded poison spine is hidden near the keyhole of a lock. Disabling or springing the trap doesn't disable or break the lock. DC 17 thievery on the spring mechanism, AC 15. Fortitude +8, reflex +4, hardness 6, hit points 24 with a break value of 12, immune to critical hits and sneak attacks. But it says when a creature tries to unlock or pick the lock, a spine extends to attack that creature. The trap makes a melee attack with +13 on its attack roll. On a hit, it deals 1 piercing damage and D6 persistent poison damage. On a critical hit, 2 piercing damage and 2d6 persistent poison damage. Let's look at Spear Launcher, another classic Hero Quest trap. Hazard. This is a hazard level 2. When Venomed Lock was level 1, Hidden Pit was 0. This is level 2. DC 20 perception check to notice. A wall socket loaded with a spear connects to a floor tile in one 5-foot square. DC 18 thievery on the floor tile or wall socket. AC 18, fortitude +11, reflex +3, hardness 8, 32 HP, break value of 16. Once again, immune to critical hits or sneak attacks. Its reaction is this. So all of these are triggered as reactions, which I think is nice. Making much more use of that. When pressure is applied to the floor tile, the trap shoots a spear, making an attack against a creature or object on the floor tile. The trap makes a ranged attack, rolling a d20 and adding 14. On a hit, it deals 2d6 +6 piercing damage, doubling on a critical hit as normal. So +14. We got +14 on the spear launcher. We got something close +13 on the Envenomed Lock. So these things hit hard. Dirma says, if a party goes into a room and there's a stone lion face on the wall if there's a stone lion face on a wall, and from that stone starts to go out poisonous fog, would that be considered a hazard or a trap? Oh, yeah. So as Zejmit says, traps are kinds of hazards. So a lot of these sound like traps. So, yeah, traps are types of hazards. All right, going on here. Let's take a look at the scythe blades. Notice 23 perception check. This is a hazard level 4. So this is another kind of trap. This was even rougher. 2 blades, each hidden in a 15-foot long ceiling groove, are connected by a tripwire. Disable 21 thievery to disable each blade. AC 21, fort plus 12, reflex plus 8, hardness of 11, hit points 44. Breaking at 22. Immune to hit critical hits and sneak attacks as normal. Falling scythes as a reaction. When the tripwire is pulled or severed, both blades swing down, each one attacking all creatures under the ceiling grooves. The trap makes a melee attack with each blade with a plus 17 to each attack roll. There are no multiple attack penalties on these attacks. On a hit, a blade deals 2d12 plus 4 slashing damage. On a critical hit, the damage is doubled plus 6 extra damage. Those sound brutal. So now we are into magic items. So what's left in this book? Magic items, creatures. Oh, and then this is our town that we can adventure in. Okay, let's go see what's going on in the chat. We may be able to wrap this book up today because we're not going to look at every single magic item or every single creature or anything like that. So let's see. David Sims says, all traps are hazards, but there are some hazards such as haunts that aren't traps. I don't recall if the box has any haunts. Chase Street says, just as an example of how hazards scale, a 17th level hazard will generally give a player a 50-50 chance die roll to even notice it before triggering it. The damage really scales up too. It seems like they've done a great job with working on exactly scaling that kind of stuff. It seems like it. Let's say C7D says, I was playing a small campaign in Pathfinder with optional proficiency without level rule, and I was wondering how much it's like bounded accuracy in 5e. I played 5e only 2 times as a first level character. I don't know. Maybe other people will know in the comments. Daniel says, I'm not sure if it's in the starter information, but later on, it takes a certain proficiency to unlock or disarm certain things. For instance, you can set a trap to only be disarmed if you are a master or plus. Pilgrim 406. Good to see you, Pilgrim. Good to see you. Glad to have you here. Pilgrim says, loving the show and episode. Thank you so much for the details. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And I'm glad to have you here. Dearmus says, the approach I have to Pathfinder is novels. I look forward to play. Oh, yes. This is why the 10-foot pole exists. Exactly. Yes, exactly, Vision. Pan says, apparently players are not intimidated by rules crunch. Almost makes Hackmaster look rules light. I still want to incorporate some things about Hackmaster into this. Jonathan Reese says, the scaling math is very tight. So proficiency without level is a bit like, this is an answer about to C7D from David. Thank you, David. That's proficiency without level is a bit like 5e bounded accuracy, but it's a bit of a fudge. It's not well balanced, and the encounter building rules don't work so well. It's more like 5e. Jonathan says that it kind of is, but you're changing things up. So let's see what else is in this book. So we got magic items here. And we were saying that each item has an item level to help us out with where it should be in the campaign and where the encounters it should be. Each one has a gold piece value, so that if when you're giving out treasure, instead of giving out treasure, you can give out a magic item that's up to that amount. So the magical trait. Magic items have the magical trait because they're imbued with magical energies that have a trait for their magical school: abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, illusion, necromancy, or transmutation. Some items are closely tied to a particular tradition of magic. In these cases, the item has the arcane, divine, occult, or primal trait instead of the magical trait. Any of these traits indicate the item is magical. Hey, what's the smoking sword? That looks fun. It's an evocation, fire, and magical spell. Or magic item. It's item level 3, price 60 gold coins. Smoke constantly belches from this +1 magic longsword. Any hit with this sword deals 1 extra fire damage. You can use a special action while holding the sword to command the blade's edge to light on fire. So stoke flames, requiring 1 concentrate action. Until the end of your turn, the blade deals 1d6 extra fire damage instead of just +1. After you use this action, you cannot use it again for 10 minutes. Ghost touch weapon. Special magic weapons. Ghost touch weapon. Item level 4. 175 gold. This item can be any type of melee weapon. It's a +1 striking weapon that's particularly effective against incorporeal creatures, which have a specific weakness to ghost touch weapons. Incorporeal creatures can hold, or wield ghost touch weapons, they can. Incorporeal creatures can touch, hold, and wield ghost touch weapons, unlike most physical objects. Interesting. Here are potions, healing potions. 4 gold pieces for 1 healing potion, item level 1. When you drink this ruby red liquid, your wounds heal rapidly. You gain 1d8 hit points. Healing potion 2 is a level 3 item, 12 gold pieces, and it heals 2d8 plus 5 hit points. A healing potion 3 is a level 6 item, 50 gold pieces, and it causes you to regain 3d8 plus 10 hit points. Holy water. We saw that. What's holy water do? Price 3 gold coins. Item level 1. This vial contains magical water blessed by a good deity. You can throw it as a ranged strike. Holy water is a simple thrown weapon with a range increment of 20 feet. It shatters on a hit, dealing 1d6 plus 1 good damage to the target and 1 good damage to every other creature within 5 feet of the target. Holy water damages only undead. Let's look at how wands work. Wand, first level spell, item level 3. This foot-long batten and contains, I think there's a word missing there. So this is a foot-long batten and contains a single first level spell. You can cast the required number of actions for the spell. You can spend the required number of actions for the spell to cast it without using a spell slot. If the spell lets you choose how many actions to spend, like heal or magic missile, you choose the number of actions when casting it as normal. Casting the spell from a wand once each day is safe. If you cast the spell from a wand a second time on the same day, you have to roll a DC 10 flat check. On a failure, the wand is destroyed. On a success, the wand is broken, but it can be repaired using the craft skill to repair it. Wow, on a failure. You can do it, so I guess you already cast it, but then you're either going to break it or you're going to have to repair it. If you fail to repair it, the wand is destroyed. If anyone tries casting a spell from a wand a third time in the same day, the spell isn't cast and the wand is automatically destroyed. So that's an interesting way to do wands. So it doesn't have a certain number of charges. You can basically use it once per day or maybe twice, but then you got to go fix your wand. Let's see. So then we get into creatures. Then I'll come back over to the chat. So animated armor. We got a bunch of creatures in here. Basilisk, boar, bugbear, marauder. So we got the bugbear in here. Cat. We looked at the giant centipede. We used it as examples. So this thing, here's the doppelganger. So we got doppelganger in here. We got wormling, green dragon, drow warrior, drow priestess, drow sneak. So different kinds of drow. I like that. I think we got different kinds of orcs as well. Brine shark elemental, cinder rat elemental, sod hound elemental, a gargoyle, Ghost Commoner. So here we got the undead. Ghouls. Here we get into goblins. Goblin Commando. Goblin Igniter. Goblin Warrior. Goblin Warriors are creature -1. So these pugwampy gremlins are even better than a standard Goblin Warrior. Harpies, Hellhounds, Hobgoblin Warrior, Kobold Dragon Mage, Kobold Scout, Kobold Trapmaster, Kobold Warrior. Lots of varieties of kobolds. Mimic, Ogre Warrior, Sewer Ooze. Now we get into kinds of orcs. Orc Commander, Orc Scrapper, Orc Trooper. The Owlbear is here. Rat Giant, Shadow, Skeleton Guard, Skeleton, a giant skeletal giant skeleton. Snake Viper, Giant Snake Viper, Spider Giant, Giant Spider, Trolls. A lot of monsters in here to work with, especially with the variety in your orcs and your goblins and your kobolds. Wolf, Zolgoth Warrior, Zombie Shambler. And then you get into, this is information about Atari, the town, which is used as a base as an adventure in this. So there might be spoilers and stuff in there. This is the Game Master's Guide. So it gives you a bit more on the town. Because in the beginning, one of the first things we saw is there is this adventure. So there's an adventure in the very front too. So there's a lot of information here in that book. I'm very glad we went through all of this. So let me see here. Lots of stuff going on in the comments. So Chase says that one cool thing about the magic items section that I really like is there really aren't magic weapons in the traditional sense. You apply magical runes to your weapons to get pluses and abilities. Piccadilly says it might be worth looking into the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Game Mastery Guide since it has a lot of variant rules, subsystems, and other things that change the game. Yes, and I want to get that. I don't have that right now. But I do want to look at that, especially if we're talking about now, hey, we kind of liked, or, I kind of liked the games to play in one certain way. Well, why would maybe stuff from the Game Mastery Guide would help out? And I also heard there is an advanced Game Master's screen as well. And that was told to me in the comment section on YouTube. So they said that some of the stuff in that Game Master screen that we looked at yesterday becomes kind of common knowledge. So it helps out, I guess, when you're learning. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that I would want in there. But he said that eventually, some commenters were saying eventually the things on that Game Master screen become kind of common knowledge. So there is an advanced Game Master screen that once you've basically memorized some of the stuff on that, it swaps some stuff out to have more advanced rules on it, which is also really neat. Sounds great. We'll have to look at that one too eventually. But what a great thing to do. I like that idea. Here's your basic learn to play. When you're still learning, here's your stuff that should be on your Game Master screen. A little while later, a few months later, here we've upgraded your Game Master screen. I love that. So yeah, we didn't see it. So David Sims says true, but the beginner box doesn't introduce runes. Just goes with +1 weapons to avoid additional complications. Mike Hansford says, sounds like the gems in PlayStation version of Baldur's Gate and how they react to weapons and armor. And also Diablo, when you're cycling in different gems and things like that. Could be. Another awesome feature Vision says of weapons is the multiple damage types. A halberd can do slashing damage or piercing damage depending on how it's used. I absolutely love that. I like that too. Avalon says, don't know if this already came up, but concentration in Pathfinder 2 just means that you must be able to think clearly and not that you must maintain the spell. That hasn't, I don't think that has come up yet. So thank you very much for the clarification, Avalon. Judgment says materials for weapons and armor are funny as well. David Sims says the GM's guide is great, but very much recommend playing with just the base rules before exploring variants. Yeah, I know. I was saying that that's our our hubris, right? That we look at this and go, oh no, wait a minute, how can we change this up? I'd like to see this, but we hadn't even played yet, or I haven't yet. Yeah, I don't have the beginner box. I wasn't sure if I made that distinction, though it's definitely worth remembering. So there are, okay, so Avalon says there are staves and staves that require charges or that use charges. You would think that would be in there someplace. So, okay, so they are there someplace. So Chase Street continues. The staves in Pathfinder 2 are really interesting too. They require a caster to power up the staff with their spell slots. Those function as charges for the powers. So basically, a caster is giving up having some spells prepared in exchange for being able to use their staff. How long does the charge last? Mike wants to know. So Dirma says, imagine if only Tucker's kobolds apply to the type of kobolds in this book. I don't know what that is. So Chase says that with a staff, charges are lost if not used within 24 hours. Amir says, after the core book, the next books to really add on stuff is the Advanced Game Player's Guide and the Game Mastery Guide. I'm going to get those. So we basically, I think we went through now everything that was in the beginner's guide, I think. That wasn't like playing through an adventure. So I think we've done that. So I suppose the next exploration of Pathfinder that I would want to do has to do with specifically the core book, because obviously there's a lot more stuff in the core book. Well, actually, one thing that we didn't look at that we probably should out of the beginner box is how to create a character, because we were jumping right into how to play. So actually, one thing that we haven't looked at in the beginner's guide is how to create a Pathfinder character. So we probably should do that. So there's probably another episode that we should do on the Pathfinder beginner box that specifically looks at character creation. Because I always like to skip into exactly how do you get playing. Because if we got pre-generated characters, I can use those and we can just play. But we probably should look at how to generate characters using the core, using the beginner box. Then there's a lot more stuff that we can add on with the core box. So I'd like to have some familiarity with what's inside the core book as well. But yeah, I want to play. So Jonathan Reese says, personally, I think the Advanced Player's Guide is the clear next step after core. Really fleshes out the player's options. More, and then Chase says, the Game Mastery Guide is absolutely worth it, as is the Advanced Players. The option rules for archetypes, Pathfinder 2e is way of multiclassing, and the downtime section are worth the purchase on their own. Oh, okay, so there's more information on downtime. We looked at downtime in the core rulebook. So we did look at that on one of the shows, but there wasn't a tremendous amount on it. So downtime is in the Game Mastery Guide. Okay, well, everybody, there's no stream tonight. Monday night, we're off, so I've got to get myself back in order here. I'm going to be doing work. I'm going to be catching up on stuff and trying to do core creative time so I can actually advance writing things. And also got to write back to manufacturers. There's a lot going on here. So hopefully there won't be any kind of crisis here. I might shoot some of those videos to bring what's going on to Hasbro's attention, but I'll catch you up on that later on. But right now, I got a ton of work I got to catch up on. I hope everybody goes and is productive today. And hey, maybe even get to do some gaming. That would be great. So let's be productive and let's gaming. Grind on, everybody.